A marriage is said to be consummated when the married couple or couple in relationship are successfully able to have sexual intercourse. By sexual intercourse, here I mean the penis entering into the vagina and completing the sexual intercourse. When this doesn't happen, we say that the marriage is unconsummated. Usually for the newly married couple, for the first 1 or 2 days or even 1 or 2 weeks or maybe a little longer also, the intercourse may not happen successfully. Just because of that, we don't call this unconsummated. But if this continues to be the situation, even after weeks on end of trying continuously to consummate the marriage, if it doesn't happen, then we classify this as unconsummated marriage. Unconsummated marriage can happen to a lot of couples. So a lot of people who approach the doctor, they do so very, they delay it a lot out of shame, guilt, embarrassment. The man feels that he's less manly, so he is not able to. The woman thinks she is at fault. Or sometimes they will be blaming each other. My wife is not operating, is what the male might say. On the other hand, the female might think the husband is having a problem with his sexual intercourse. He's not getting hard. He's not able to penetrate, and so on and so forth. So there might be some mutual blaming, or they blame each other. But whatever the case, for unless they are very bold, very confident, or very matter of fact, very assertive people, they do not approach the doctor sooner. Usually, it comes from both one side or the other, or both. If the male, for example, is having an erection problem, I would not call this erectile dysfunction per se straight away. But if he is having difficulty with erection, then the marriage might remain unconsummated. And on the female side, if she is terribly afraid of penetration, if she thinks her vagina might be torn, her vulva might be torn, there might be some bleeding, it might hurt deeply, or for whatever reasons, if she is terribly afraid, then she might not allow intercourse to happen at all. These are two very, very strong reasons why unconsummated marriages happen, but there are many other reasons as well. Marital distress, first thing, dissatisfaction with the marriage, and especially if there is a mutual blaming, then marriages fall into distress. So if the girl thinks that the man has no manhood, or if the husband thinks that the wife is now not cooperative, she's not willing, she's not interested in him, then that might even lead to divorce. Or if not, at least to arguments, dissatisfaction, discontent, resentment, all those things. So it will be an unhappy marriage. Unless they love each other so much, unless they care for each other so much, unless they think that sex is, okay, it is important, but it is not a life and death person, let us live happily. Unless they think, the problems will always be there. One of the understand that depends on the couple actually. If they understand each other, they know each other, whatever problems they have, and let us say in a hypothetical situation, for example, the girl who's getting married to a guy says that I'm not interested in sex, I'm terribly afraid of sex, is that okay to you? And if the guy says, yes, I don't have a problem, let's be good friends, let us hug each other, let us kiss each other, let us be together in all other ways but not penetrate, that's fine with me. He says that the marriage will be good. And it is acceptable to them. But whereas people generally do not marry that way, when they get married to have sexual pleasure, sexual enjoyment, have kids and all that. So that is, in terms of law, it is a contractual obligation between the couple. That is not fulfilled, it leads to, like I said, marital disharmony. So it is very important in marriage. But again, like I said, it happens with vast majority of people. Only a very small percentage of people. Even after getting married also, they understand each other. Like I said, the 18-year-old couple that I have seen some 20, 25 years back, they were very understanding, that they were mutually supporting. For them, sex is important, but they thought that, okay, we can live without sex also. For them, love and care and concern are more important. They understand each other, their wavelengths are equal, near equal. So there are very, very few such couples. It rarely happens, but it happens. But for the vast majority, sex is very, very important, and unconsummated marriage is a leading cause of divorces, or at least an important cause of divorces. One thing is to consult a sex therapist and a marital therapist. If there are relationship problems, the marital therapist will take care of them. And if the marital therapist is also a sex therapist, he or she can handle the sexual problem also. We have been helping lots of couples overcome this consummation problem. We treat these couples with a biopsychosocial model. Here, biological component involves medical examination in such a way that the patient is not afraid, not hurt, or not panicked. So a medical examination is arranged through a gynecologist. And if she or he thinks that the person does not have any physical problems, like for example, a very, very thick hymen, imperforate hymen, or septate vagina, if there are no such atrophic vagina, if there are no such physical problems, then we move on to the psychological part. Then we provide psychosexual education as to why sex is not painful, why sex need not be afraid of, how sex can be comfortable, how can one make sexual activity a very comfortable one, how can one avoid pain and all that. So on those aspects, we educate them initially, then we give them some training exercises, so that gradually they lose their fear, they get used to, they train themselves to allow objects to allow inserting objects inside their vagina, and eventually they move on to sexual intercourse. Usually it takes nearly 8 to 12 weeks of sessions that will usually cure the problem, that will resolve the problem. I would not say cure, they will resolve the problem. First physical examination is done, first interviews are done, then they will try to understand the nature of the problem, or how the problem is arising, whether it is there in the mind, or whether it is there in the body, or whether it is there with the partner. First that has to be explored. So an extensive interview will give an idea. The therapist will also go deep into the developmental experiences of both the persons, the male and female, to understand where the problem is coming up from. After that, then the physical examination is done. Usually there would not be any laboratory tests involved, especially for the female, but the physical examination is necessary. But usually most females resist physical examination, but because that's what they are terribly afraid of. So it is very important to reassure them that they would not do anything against the will and wish of the patient. So very, very carefully priming the patient, a physical examination is conducted to the extent the female permits. If there is no physical abnormality, like I mentioned, there's an imperforate hymen, a thick hymen, or a hymen with a very small opening and a thick one. And then if the vagina is divided into two compartments, that's what we call septate vagina, so penetration is very difficult. Or if there are any infections, which will cause a lot of inflammation, burning sensation, and pain upon trying to penetrate, all these things will be explored. The therapist will also try to understand if the faulty insertion technique is a cause of the unconsummated marriage. So we'll explore all those aspects, and after the physical examination is done, then we provide them psychoeducation, and then we'll also provide behavioral techniques and some do it at home kind of exercises. Slowly, gradually, they move on to be able to have successful intercourse.